What would you do if the two people you trusted most, the woman you loved and the man who was supposed to be family, stabbed you in the back in the most unthinkable way? That question haunted me long before I had the answer. My marriage wasn't perfect, but I thought we had something real. We shared late-night talks, laughter, dreams of a future, the kind of bond you believe is unbreakable. But little did I know, every smile she gave me was hiding a darker truth. I remember sitting there one night, staring at her across the dinner table. She laughed at something my father-in-law said, her hand brushing his arm just a second too long. It was subtle, so subtle I almost convinced myself it was nothing. But my gut whispered otherwise. They say love makes you blind, but betrayal makes you see everything in painful detail. And I was about to see it all, piece by piece. Before we dive deeper into this roller coaster of betrayal, heartbreak, and revenge, make sure you subscribe, because trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. At first I brushed it off. Couples drift sometimes, right? Work stress, bills, family obligations, it all adds up. I told myself her sudden distance was just life wearing us down. But deep down, something felt off. She started guarding her phone like it was a vault. It was always upside down on the table, the screen hidden from me. If it buzzed, she'd snatch it up with lightning speed, laughing nervously, or walking out of the room to take a quick call. And then there were the late nights. She claimed she was working late, but when I asked simple questions, like what project she was handling, her answers were vague, inconsistent, almost rehearsed. The strangest part? My father-in-law had suddenly started showing up at our house more often. He'd come by under the excuse of helping with repairs or just checking in. At first I thought it was kind, but then I noticed his visits often lined up perfectly. Importantly, why she no longer looked at me the way she used to. And the cruelest part? Every time she smiled at my father-in-law, I saw a flicker of the woman I had fallen in love with, the version of her she had stopped showing me. That thought alone nearly drove me insane. The more I noticed, the more my mind spiraled. But then the guilt would hit me. What kind of husband suspects his own wife? Was I really that paranoid? Or was something truly wrong? I tried to shake it off. Maybe she was just stressed. Maybe her father-in-law really was just being helpful. I told myself I was overanalyzing, but my gut screamed louder each day. I caught them sharing little moments that didn't sit right with me. A lingering glance, a private joke I wasn't part of, the way her tone softened when she spoke to him. So different from the clipped way she spoke to me lately. Still, I wanted to believe in her. I wanted to believe in us. I kept reminding myself of the vows we made, the promises we whispered late at night. Love was supposed to be about trust, wasn't it? But trust is fragile. Once a crack forms, it doesn't stay small. It spreads, until you can't ignore it anymore. And deep down, I knew I was standing at the edge of something I wasn't ready to face. My father-in-law's presence became almost routine. At first, I thought nothing of it. He'd drop by, claiming he was there to fix a leaky faucet or check on the garden. Harmless things, right? But the frequency started to nag at me. He wasn't just visiting once in a while. He was practically part of our daily life. And strangely, his visits always seemed to coincide with the times my wife was most distant. I tried to brush off the unease, but little details stuck with me. Like how she'd light up the moment he walked in, her smile brighter than anything she'd given me in weeks. Or the way they exchanged. She'd been caught. He gave me a polite smile, but I noticed his hand pulling back from the edge of the couch cushion, like it had been a little too close to hers. Alone, each moment seemed innocent. but together they formed a picture I didn't want to see. My wife was slipping away from me, piece by piece, and somehow my father-in-law was always in the frame. And the worst part? I was still trying to convince myself it was nothing. The little inconsistencies started piling up until they were impossible to ignore. Her excuses never matched. One night she claimed she was working late on an urgent project, but her clothes smelled faintly of cologne. Not mine, not hers. Another time she said she was at the grocery store, but when I checked the fridge later, there wasn't a single new item inside. I kept notes in my head, lining up every lie, every shift in her story. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized she wasn't just bad at covering her tracks. She didn't even care if I noticed. That realization hit harder than I expected. It wasn't just about suspicion anymore. It was about respect, or rather, the lack of it. She had stopped respecting me enough to even hide her betrayal properly. And then, one night, while she was showering, I walked past her phone on the nightstand. The screen lit up with a notification, a name, a message. What I read made my blood run cold. Her phone had lit up with a simple message: "Can't wait to see you again." Last night was unforgettable. No name, just initials. But those initials matched my father-in-law's. My stomach dropped. My gut screamed at me. This is it. This is the truth you've been avoiding. But my mind refused to believe it. I told myself there had to be another explanation. Maybe I was reading too much into it. Maybe it wasn't even just a friend from work. Her tone was sharp, too sharp, like she needed to shut me down before I pressed further. Every red flag screamed in my face, but still I hesitated. What if I confronted her and was wrong? What if paranoia destroyed what little we had left? But the truth has a way of gnawing at you until you can't sleep, can't eat, can't think. That's when I knew I had to get proof. The decision to dig for proof felt like stepping onto a tightrope with no safety net. One wrong move and everything could collapse. Late one night, while she was asleep, I stared at her phone on the nightstand. My heart pounded so loudly I thought it might wake her. I reached for it, then pulled my hand back, over and over. My chest tightened with fear. What if I was about to destroy my marriage over nothing? What if I was just paranoid? But then another voice inside me whispered, "What if this is the only way to save yourself?" The war in my head was unbearable. My hands shook as I finally picked it up, staring at the lock screen like it was a bomb I wasn't trained to defuse. I didn't even know the passcode anymore. She had changed it. That small detail hit harder than I expected. She had locked me out of her world, and I knew why. In that moment, I made a silent promise. If she was hiding something, I would find it, and once I did, I'd never let her make me feel crazy again. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. One evening, she was rushing to get ready for a work dinner. In her hurry, she left her phone on the dresser, unlocked. My pulse hammered in my ears as I picked it up. My hands were trembling so badly I nearly dropped it. With one swipe, her messages unfolded before me. And there it was, thread after thread. Messages with my father-in-law. Not vague, not friendly, explicit. They taught eyes. The waiting nearly killed me. I lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, rehearsing how it would go. Every second stretched into eternity. Every tick of the clock was another reminder that I was living with a stranger. The night I finally chose to act, my nerves were shredded. I watched her dress carefully, put on perfume she never wore, for me, and glance at her reflection with a smile that wasn't meant for me. When the door closed behind her, I grabbed my keys, my heart pounding so violently I thought I might pass out. The truth was waiting outside. I trailed her car from a safe distance, headlights dimmed just enough to stay unnoticed. My palms were slick against the steering wheel, every turn of the road tightening the knot in my stomach. She pulled into a restaurant parking lot. For a brief moment, relief washed over me. Maybe she really was meeting a friend. Maybe this nightmare was all in my head. I even spotted a group of coworkers walking inside, laughing loudly. And I almost convinced myself she'd join them. But then, instead of following them, she lingered by her car, glancing around nervously. A few minutes later, another car pulled in. My father-in-law stepped out, dressed sharp, with a grin that made my skin crawl. The way her face lit up when she saw him. It wasn't the smile of a daughter-in-law greeting family. It was the smile of a woman meeting her secret lover. They didn't head inside. Instead, they slipped into his car together. My chest tightened as I watched them lean close, their silhouettes unmistakable in the glow of the dashboard. That was the moment denial died. I sat frozen in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Part of me wanted to storm over, rip open that car door, and drag them both out into the open. But another part of me, the colder, sharper part, knew I needed more. If I confronted them now, they'd deny it, twist it, make a wedding photo that hung crookedly on the wall. Her smile in that picture used to mean everything to me. Now it felt like a mockery. Her lips pressed against mine on the happiest day of my life, when all along, maybe she had been capable of this. She called out my name, her voice warm, almost too warm. I walked into the kitchen, forcing my breathing to steady. She looked up at me with that same familiar smile, the one I had fallen in love with. Only now I knew what it concealed. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers. But instead, I just sat at the table, staring at her hands as she chopped vegetables like any normal evening. Each sound of the knife hitting the cutting board felt like a ticking clock, counting down to the moment everything would explode. I sat there, watching her every movement, my fingers drumming against the wooden table. The sound was faint, but deliberate. She noticed. It made her glance at me for a split second longer than usual before she returned to chopping. "Long day?" she asked, her voice casual, but her eyes flickered with something. Was it guilt? Or just my imagination twisting everything now that I knew? "Yeah," I replied flatly. "A lot happened today." I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. She didn't falter, but I caught the subtle tightening of her jaw, the way she avoided my gaze. "You missed dinner with Dad earlier," she added quickly, as if to fill the silence. "He was asking about you." My chest tightened, rage burning under my skin. Of course he was asking. I forced a thin smile. I'm sure he was. Her knife slowed for a moment, before picking up again, each slice of the blade sharper, quicker, almost nervous. She thought she was in control of this game, but I wasn't going to confront her tonight back. It's strange how people change. Sometimes, they surprise you in ways you'd never expect. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed hard. The smile on her lips didn't reach her eyes.
She knew something was off, but she couldn't tell how much I already knew. That was the point. I wanted her to feel cornered, without even realizing the trap was closing. Her voice faltered as she set the glass down a little too hard on the counter. "Why are you acting so strange tonight?" "You're making me nervous." I tilted my head, feigning confusion. "Nervous? Why would you be nervous around your own husband?" Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she looked away, pretending to tidy up a napkin that didn't need fixing. Her shoulders were tense, stiff, like she was carrying a secret that weighed more than she could handle. "You know," I said softly, letting my words drip like venom, "trust is a fragile thing. Once it's broken, it's almost impossible to piece it back together." Her breath hitched. For the first time that night, her confident facade cracked. Are you accusing me of something?" she whispered, her voice shaking. I didn't answer immediately. I let the silence gnaw at her, each second stretching longer than the last. Finally, I smiled faintly and leaned forward. "I don't need to accuse you," I said, my tone sharp but quiet. "The truth always finds its way to the surface, whether you want it to or not." Her face paled. She didn't know how much I had seen, and that uncertainty, it was eating her alive. Her hands shook as she tried to busy herself with the dishes, the clatter of plates betraying her nerves. "This is ridiculous," she muttered, though her voice cracked halfway through. "You're twisting everything." "I haven't done anything wrong." I leaned against the counter, folding my arms. "Haven't you?"
Pulled out my phone and set it on the table. With one tap, the screen lit up, playing the damning clip I had recorded. Her and my father-in-law. Too close. Too intimate. Whispering words they should never have shared. Her face went white. No, how did you... I didn't flinch. I let the footage play, her betrayal echoing through the room. "I wanted the truth," I said, my voice steady. "Now I have it." Tears welled in her eyes, but I felt nothing but a cold, hollow satisfaction. "You lied to me, to this family, and you thought you could hide it forever." She reached out, desperate. "Please, I can explain." I stepped back, my decision final. "Save it. You've already said enough." The room was heavy with silence, broken only by her muffled sobs. I knew what I had to do next. Not just for me, but for the family she had torn apart. And to the viewers who've stayed with me through this storm, betrayal always comes to light. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one, because trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next.